Listen to me very carefully, because what I'm about to tell you will fundamentally change the way you see yourself and the world around you. Right now, as you're listening to these words, your brain is processing thousands of pieces of information every single second. Most of these thoughts are happening automatically, without your conscious control. And here's the shocking truth that most people never realize. 95% of your thoughts today will be the exact same thoughts you had yesterday. You are living in a mental prison of your own making, and you don't even know it. Every morning you wake up and automatically slip into the same mental patterns, the same emotional responses, the same limiting beliefs that have been running your life for years. You think you're making conscious choices, but the reality is that your unconscious mind is driving the bus while you're just along for the ride. But today that changes. Today I'm going to teach you how to think correctly, and when you master this skill, everything in your life will transform. Your relationships will improve, your career will accelerate, your health will flourish, and most importantly, you'll finally become the person you were meant to be. The first thing you need to understand is that thinking is a skill, just like playing the piano or learning to drive a car. Nobody expects to sit down at a piano and play a masterpiece on their first try. Yet somehow we expect our minds to operate at peak performance without any training whatsoever. This is backwards thinking, and it's exactly why most people live lives of quiet desperation. Your brain is the most sophisticated piece of technology in the known universe. It contains approximately 86 billion neurons, each one capable of forming thousands of connections with other neurons. The number of possible neural pathways in your brain exceeds the number of atoms in the observable universe. Yet most people use less than 10% of this incredible processing power because they've never learned how to think correctly. What does it mean to think correctly? It means becoming the conscious director of your own thoughts, rather than their unconscious victim. It means learning to observe your thinking patterns with the same objectivity that a scientist observes an experiment. It means developing the ability to choose your thoughts deliberately, rather than allowing them to choose you. Right now, your thoughts are choosing you. They're bubbling up from your unconscious mind based on past experiences, social conditioning, and genetic predispositions. These automatic thoughts create automatic emotions, which lead to automatic behaviors, which produce automatic results. This is why your life feels like it's on autopilot, because it literally is. The average human being has between 60,000 and 70,000 thoughts per day. Of these thoughts, approximately 90% are repetitive and roughly 80% are negative. This means that most people are unconsciously programming themselves for failure, limitation, and suffering every single day without even realizing it. But here's what's truly remarkable. You have the power to change this programming at any moment. You have the ability to become conscious of your thoughts and deliberately choose new ones. This isn't positive thinking or wishful thinking, this is quantum thinking, and it's based on solid neuroscientific principles that have been proven in laboratories around the world. Your brain doesn't know the difference between something that's actually happening and something you're vividly imagining. This is why you can watch a scary movie and feel genuine fear, even though you know it's just actors on a screen. Your brain responds to your thoughts as if they were real experiences. And this is the key to transformation. When you consistently think new thoughts, you literally rewire your brain. Neuroscientists call this neuroplasticity, and it's one of the most important discoveries of the 21st century. Your brain is not fixed and unchangeable as we once believed. It's constantly reorganizing itself based on your thoughts, emotions, and experiences. Every time you think a thought, you fire a specific pattern of neurons in your brain. When you think the same thought repeatedly, these neural pathways become stronger and more automatic. It's like walking the same path through a field every day until it becomes a well-worn trail. The more you use a particular thought pattern, the more automatic it becomes. This is why change feels so difficult. Your old thought patterns have become neural superhighways, while new thought patterns feel like trying to bushwhack through dense forest. But here's the incredible truth. With consistent practice, you can create new neural superhighways that support the life you want to live, rather than the life you've been settling for. The key is understanding that thoughts are not facts. They're just electrical impulses in your brain. Most people believe every thought they have, but this is a fundamental error. Your thoughts are heavily influenced by your past experiences, your cultural conditioning, your emotional state, and countless other factors. Just because you think something doesn't make it true. Learning to observe your thoughts without immediately believing them is the first step toward thinking correctly. It's like becoming a witness to your own mental activity rather than being completely identified with it. When you can observe your thoughts, you gain the power to choose which ones you want to invest your attention in and which ones you want to let pass by. Most people are completely unconscious of their thinking patterns. They're like a person driving a car while blindfolded, wondering why they keep crashing into things. But when you become conscious of your thoughts, you gain the ability to steer your life in the direction you actually want to go. The second crucial element of correct thinking is understanding the relationship between thoughts and emotions. Most people believe that emotions just happen to them, like weather patterns that are completely beyond their control. They say things like, "I'm just an angry person," or "I'm naturally anxious," as if these emotional states were permanent fixtures of their personality. But emotions are not random events that happen to you, they're the direct result of your thoughts. Every emotion you feel is created by a specific thought pattern. When you think thoughts of lack, you feel emotions of scarcity. When you think thoughts of possibility, you feel emotions of excitement. When you think thoughts of victimhood, you feel emotions of powerlessness. This means you have far more control over your emotional state than you've been led to believe. You can't always control what happens to you, but you can always control how you think about what happens to you, and that determines how you feel about it. Consider this. Two people can experience the exact same event and have completely different emotional responses. One person loses their job and becomes depressed, convinced that their life is ruined. Another person loses their job and becomes excited, seeing it as an opportunity to pursue something better. The external event is identical, but the internal experience is completely different because of the way each person thinks about the situation. This isn't about denying reality or pretending that difficult things don't happen. It's about recognizing that you have choices in how you interpret and respond to whatever life throws at you. Your interpretation of events has more impact on your life than the events themselves. The third pillar of correct thinking is learning to focus your attention deliberately rather than allowing it to be scattered by every distraction that comes your way. Attention is your most valuable resource, and where you place your attention determines what you experience and what you create in your life. Most people have no control over their attention. They're like a flashlight with a dying battery, flickering weakly from one thing to another without ever illuminating anything clearly. They check their phone every few minutes, jump from thought to thought without any direction, and wonder why they feel scattered and unproductive. But attention is like a muscle. It gets stronger with exercise. When you practice focusing your attention on one thing for extended periods, you develop what neuroscientists call sustained attention networks in your brain. These networks allow you to concentrate deeply, think creatively, and perform at your highest level. The practice of meditation isn't just about relaxation or stress relief, although those are beneficial side effects. Meditation is attention training. It's like going to the gym for your mind. When you sit quietly and focus your attention on your breath, you're literally strengthening the neural networks responsible for concentration and awareness. But you don't need to sit in lotus position for hours to develop your attention. You can practice focused attention throughout your day by doing one thing at a time with complete presence. When you eat, just eat. When you walk, just walk. When you have a conversation, be completely present with the other person instead of thinking about what you're going to say next. Most people are living their lives in a state of continuous partial attention, never fully present to anything. They're physically in one place, but mentally somewhere else entirely. This scattered attention creates a scattered life, where nothing feels fully satisfying because nothing is ever fully experienced. When you learn to focus your attention completely on whatever you're doing, you enter what psychologists call flow states. In flow, your sense of self disappears. Time seems to stop and you perform at your absolute best. Athletes call it being in the zone, artists call it inspiration, but it's really just the natural result of focused attention. The fourth element of correct thinking is developing what I call mental flexibility. Most people think in rigid patterns that were programmed into them during childhood. They have fixed beliefs about themselves, about other people, and about how the world works. And they defend these beliefs even when they're clearly limiting their potential. Correct thinking requires you to hold your beliefs lightly, like water in your cupped hands, rather than ice in a clenched fist. You must be willing to question everything you think you know about yourself and your capabilities. The beliefs that got you to where you are now may not be the beliefs that will take you where you want to go. Your beliefs about yourself become self-fulfilling prophecies. If you believe you're not good at mathematics, you won't put in the effort required to improve, and you'll prove yourself right. If you believe you're not attractive, you'll carry yourself in ways that make you less attractive, and again, you'll prove yourself right. If you believe you're not capable of success, you'll unconsciously sabotage your opportunities. And once more, you'll prove yourself right. But beliefs are not facts. They're just thoughts you've been thinking for so long that they feel true. Every belief you have was learned, which means every belief can be unlearned and replaced with something more empowering. You are not stuck with the mental programming you received as a child unless you choose to be. The most successful people in any field are those who have learned to think beyond the limitations that most people accept as reality. They've developed the mental flexibility to see possibilities where others see only problems. They've trained themselves to think in terms of solutions rather than obstacles. This mental flexibility requires you to become comfortable with uncertainty and ambiguity. Most people crave certainty and try to force everything into neat categories of right and wrong, good and bad, possible and impossible, but the real world is far more nuanced and complex than these simple categories allow. The fifth principle of correct thinking is learning to think in systems rather than events. Most people think in terms of isolated incidents and wonder why they can't create lasting change in their lives. They try to lose weight by going on a diet without addressing the underlying habits and beliefs that created the excess weight in the first place. They try to make more money without developing the skills and mindset that create wealth. Everything in your life is connected to everything else. Your thoughts influence your emotions, which influence your behaviors, which influence your results, which influence your thoughts. Your health affects your energy, which affects your productivity, which affects your income, which affects your stress level, which affects your health. When you understand these connections, you can make small changes that create large results. Instead of trying to force massive changes that rarely stick, you can identify the leverage points in your personal system and make strategic adjustments that ripple outward to transform everything else. For example, if you want to improve your physical health, you might think you need to completely overhaul your diet and exercise routine. But often the real leverage point is improving your sleep quality, When you sleep better, you have more energy, which makes you more likely to exercise. When you exercise, you feel better about yourself, which makes you more likely to eat healthy foods. When you eat better and exercise regularly, you sleep even better, creating a positive spiral. Systems thinking allows you to work smarter rather than harder. Instead of fighting against yourself, you align all the elements of your life to support your desired outcomes. This is how small changes create massive transformations over time. The sixth element of correct thinking is developing what neuroscientists call cognitive flexibility. This is your ability to switch between different mental frameworks depending on the situation. Most people get stuck in one way of thinking and try to apply it to every situation, like trying to use a hammer for every job. Different situations require different types of thinking. Creative problems require divergent thinking, where you generate as many ideas as possible without judging them. Analytical problems require convergent thinking, where you systematically evaluate options and choose the best one. Interpersonal problems require emotional intelligence and empathy. The most effective people have developed multiple thinking strategies and know when to use each one. They can shift from logical analysis to creative brainstorming to emotional understanding as the situation demands. This cognitive flexibility makes them far more effective in navigating the complexities of modern life. Most people default to the same thinking patterns regardless of the situation. They're either always logical or always emotional, always optimistic or always pessimistic, always focused on details or always focused on the big picture. This mental rigidity severely limits their effectiveness and creates unnecessary friction in their lives. Developing cognitive flexibility requires you to practice thinking in different ways deliberately. When you're facing a challenge, try approaching it from multiple angles. What would a scientist think about this situation? What would an artist think? What would a 5-year-old think? What would someone from a completely different culture think? These different perspectives will reveal solutions and possibilities that you would never discover if you only thought about the situation in your habitual way. The more thinking strategies you develop, the more resourceful you become in handling whatever life presents to you. The seventh principle involves understanding the power of questions in shaping your thinking. Most people ask themselves terrible questions that lead to terrible answers. They ask things like, why does this always happen to me? Or what's wrong with me? Or why can't I ever get ahead? These questions focus your mind on problems and limitations, which is exactly what you'll find more of. The quality of your life is determined by the quality of the questions you ask yourself on a regular basis. Your brain is a question-answering machine, and it will always find an answer to whatever you ask, even if the answer isn't helpful or accurate. If you ask yourself, why am I so stupid? Your brain will helpfully provide you with a list of evidence to support that conclusion. If you ask yourself, how can I become smarter? Your brain will start looking for ways to improve your intelligence. The difference in these two questions is the difference between a life of limitation and a life of growth. Correct thinking requires you to become conscious of the questions you're asking yourself and deliberately choose better ones. Instead of asking, why me? Ask, how can I use this experience to grow stronger? Instead of asking, what if I fail? Ask, what if I succeed beyond my wildest dreams? Instead of asking, what's wrong with this situation? Ask, what's right about this situation that I haven't noticed yet? These empowering questions don't deny reality or pretend that challenges don't exist. They simply direct your mental resources towards solutions and possibilities rather than problems and limitations. When you ask better questions, you get better answers, which leads to better decisions and better results.